Steven, 419.
Yeah, that's I see that driving down the road. Well, 409 right now driving down. So we lost 10 cents, but still that's expensive, Jim.
Are you
That's a
talking
lot of
right
money.
here on the boulevard?
Yeah, the 3 stations coming straight up from 175th were 409.
Yeah, they're typically, because I think they have competition between the 3, honestly, they're typically the lowest in the region that I drive in.
You're right. Yep.
I mean, there may be some areas out in Cherville off of 30 and in areas where, even Hammond here is 419 right now in Hammond proper. So I'm calling, and then it was even higher, 429 in some spots. So 419 seems to be about right. So we just blew right through $4.
And we haven't even reached the traditional time of year, the spring, the May time, when our area gas prices always go up because they switch to fuel blends.
Why do you think this is happening?
Turmoil, politics, just a lot of bad decisions, a lot of bad things happening in the world. It's just a fierce storm that's all coming together. But I think some things have to try to be done to rectify this problem and bring these prices down.
219-845-1100. Here you go. Go to this one, would you?
I know the president had discussed over the last few days about tapping this Strategic Petroleum Reserve. Maybe that could put a little dent in it. I don't know. But, it's taking a chunk out of people's wallets.
219-845-1100. What do you think about gas prices? How do you think it happened? What do you think we should do? And how is it affecting your life? 219-845-1100.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but I think one of the main things that we could do in this country, if the administration would just change their philosophy about it, is drill in our own area. We got so much reserves. Just start going for it. We have to try to do something. We all know, we've discussed this before about alternative energy. We know we need to develop that, but it's not going to happen overnight. That's not going to happen in probably the next 5-10 years. It's got to be tried and tested. But in the meantime, we have to do something. And if we have this reserve that we could tap into, we should start doing that.
Average price a gallon came out $3.83 on the national. In Chicago area, it's $4.28.
Yep.
That's crazy. Chicago is. In my mind, I go to New York once in a while. My sister lives out there, and they complain about how much everything costs in New York. I got to believe in the last few years, Chicago's gotten just as expensive.
Easily.
You know what I mean? And you see it in the gas, but in everything else, too.
I mean, you just go grocery shopping around here. When milk is hovering around $3 a gallon, I mean, that's
a can of corn for $1.30. What is that?
It's costed a lot more money to live than it used to live just a year ago.
209-845-1100. So average in Chicago area, $4.28. I got to believe Northwest Indiana is probably more like $4.15. 209-845-1100. Dave from Highland. Hey, what's up, Dave?
Wow, guys.
Hey, David.
Blaming everything on President Obama. That's precious.
I'm not blaming everything on him. All I'm saying is things need to be done, David. I didn't mean to cut you short on that. I'll give you a second. But he's the one in charge over the last 3.5 years. We gave him, for the first 3 years easy, blamed it on Bush. I don't think you can blame it on Bush anymore. I'm not just blaming it on him. It's the whole philosophy in Washington that needs to be changed.
Well, that's about the only comment I'm going to agree with you. President Obama has nothing to do with gasoline prices. And why isn't anyone screaming and yelling that ExxonMobil in the last 7 years has passed the T mark? They've made $1 trillion in profit over the last 7.5 years. Why isn't Joe screaming at ExxonMobil?
Well, that's a valid point, David. Why aren't our politicians bringing that up and doing something about it?
Politicians have nothing to do with it. You want to nationalize gasoline? I'm a big proponent for that. But all of a sudden, the minute you start regulating the speculators on Wall Street, okay, now all of a sudden you're an obstructionist. This is a ridiculous argument that you're painting somebody in a corner and it's a no-win situation. You know, it's putting me in a no-win situation. It's ridiculous. I'm furious with the gas companies.
Let me ask you this, David. David, let me ask you this. If it's so ridiculous to blame the president, then how come over the last decades, whenever something like this has happened, it's always been the president's been blamed?
It's always because it's short-sighted. Now, this XL pipeline, do you think that President Obama and his administration wants to raise gas prices in an election year?
I doubt they do.
Everybody knows not one drop of gasoline and oil is coming out of that XL pipeline for 5 to 6 years. And all of that oil is going to go to Asia. The Koch brothers already said, this is the deal that was shut down when the Obama administration went to the Koch brothers and said, you know what, we're past this XL pipeline, but we want a certain percentage to come to the United States, to stay in the United States. And you know what they said? Absolutely not.
David, let me ask you this one then. All right, if that's the case, then how come the sword of Damocles is hanging over them by the comments that were made years back about America should pay the price that Europeans pay? That's going to come back to haunt him. That's in his own words.
That was a slap. That was one of those kind of a slap on the wrist comment. You know,
it still was said, David.
I was paying $9.50 a gallon. Okay, there's no way this country can pay $9 a gallon for gas because we don't have the infrastructure. We don't have the public transportation that the European system has. It'll just never happen. 75% of the vehicle, the transportation in Europe is by train or by bus.
Oh, I understand that. They have outdone us by far on that, and that's some place where we lack immensely. But it still doesn't, I understand what you're saying. This is something we could banter around for years, but we have to come up with a solution. And we have to work together.
It has nothing to do with banter. It has everything to do with what's right and wrong and what is the truth and what's not the truth. I'm really big on facts, but to pin everything on the Obama administration, I could very easily rewind that to August 6th of 2008 when gas was $4.06 a gallon during the
yes, and he opened up the strategic reserve and the price came down, and the price dropped down since then.
Obama wanted to do the same thing, but the conservatives in this country said he's risking the security of the nation.
Well, then I disagree with what they're saying. David, I disagree with that point that the conservatives are making. He needs to do something. And I'm sorry to say, since he's the top dog, he's the president, he's the one that's going to get the blame.